Dr. Martinez announced that my mother's situation was dire and immediate surgery was essential, his words reverberating down the antiseptic hospital hallway. Clutching my cell phone firmly, I attempted to contact Douglas for the 7th time. Before he finally picked up, his annoyance clearly evident. "What do you want now, Virginia?" "I'm in a crucial business meeting," he barked, his characteristic coldness making my heart sink with familiar dread. "Mother is being taken to emergency surgery and I need your presence here," I begged, my voice trembling while the harsh fluorescent lighting hummed above me as I awaited his answer. "Unfortunately, I can't be there. Significant matters are unfolding." "Just manage it on your own," he stated before disconnecting the call. I am Virginia Crawford, age 47. And that experience at St. Luke's Hospital in Birmingham marked the moment I finally acknowledged that my marriage was irreparably damaged. While observing the medical staff transport my mother toward the intensive care unit, recollections of joyful moments came rushing back. Warm summer days at our family's Victorian mansion, the fragrance of mother's flower garden drifting through the open windows, father's hearty laughter resonating throughout the elaborate corridors. Our estate had remained within the family for 4 successive generations. Following father's death 3 years prior, mother and I became co-inheritors of the property. The historic home held immense significance for us. Each groaning wooden plank and detailed architectural feature narrated our ancestral heritage. Douglas once appreciated this, or so I believed. During our early marriage 15 years ago, he would dedicate weekends to assisting mother with her cherished garden. However, gradually, my spouse's affection became as frigid as stone. As I remained in the ICU waiting area, my phone chimed with Douglas's message. "Secured my future by selling the estate. Departing for Brazil tonight with someone who genuinely brings me joy. Farewell." An unexpected tranquility enveloped me upon reading his text. What Douglas remained unaware of was my months-long surveillance of his activities. My private detective had provided comprehensive reports regarding his manipulations, including his romantic affair with his young assistant and their escape plans. I responded with a single term: intriguing. Gazing at my mother's delicate figure through the IQ glass, I felt intense resolve building within me. Douglas had no comprehension of what awaited him. Occasionally, the most effective vengeance involves allowing someone to march directly into their own snare. Douglas hadn't always behaved this way. When we initially encountered each other at a Birmingham charity event 15 years ago, he possessed different qualities: gentle, driven, and authentically compassionate. He served as a junior associate at a legal firm then, and his expression would brighten whenever discussing assistance to his clients. I recall how he would deliver coffee to my father during extended conversations about estate administration, enthusiastic to absorb and comprehend our family's heritage. The Victorian mansion represented more than merely our residence, constructed in 1887 by my great-grandfather. It stood as evidence of our ancestral past. Every Christmas celebration, every festivity, every peaceful Sunday was experienced within those walls. I can still visualize my grandmother positioned in her preferred library corner, sharing tales about previous generations. "Family encompasses more than bloodlines, Virginia," she would declare, her eyes sparkling with understanding. "It involves loyalty and safeguarding what holds the greatest importance." Douglas's transformations were gradual initially. Approximately 5 years ago, he began extending his office hours, returning home progressively later. When my father died 3 years ago, something fundamentally changed within him. He started challenging every financial choice I made, demanding greater authority over the estate's matters. I observed minor items vanishing from the house. Antique objects, family jewels, pieces he alleged were merely being evaluated for insurance purposes. 2 months ago, I discovered receipts for an expensive Rio de Janeiro condominium in his email account. That prompted me to employ Juliana, the private investigator. "Your spouse has been conducting meetings with various prospective purchasers," she informed me last week. "He's been presenting them with falsified paperwork claiming complete estate ownership." The irony of the entire situation would have amused me if it weren't so devastating. Douglas had invested years attempting to control the estate, ignorant that my grandmother had established it within an irrevocable trust decades before he joined our family. She had witnessed similar circumstances develop in other affluent families and had implemented measures to safeguard our inheritance. My phone buzzed again with another Douglas message. You'll appreciate me when you discover the amount I received. For that antiquated house, time to progress forward. I stored the phone away, my hand discovering solace in the weathered leather of my grandmother's journal within my purse. Inside contained the truth that would soon completely demolish Douglas's schemes. The ICU waiting area seemed chillier as evening approached. My mother's operation was extending beyond expectations, and my anxiety was intensifying. Juliana, my private investigator, contacted me with information that froze my blood. Virginia, I have something requiring your immediate attention, she stated urgently. Please examine your email. I accessed the attachment she transmitted, and my hands began trembling. Dozens of photographs revealed Douglas at costly restaurants with his young assistant Angela, purchasing jewelry at Tiffany's, and visiting upscale real estate offices. However, what caused my stomach to drop were the documents clearly visible in several photos. He's been systematically depleting your personal accounts for months, Juliana explained. The estate transaction is merely the concluding component. He's already moved most of your liquid funds to offshore accounts. I accessed my banking application, and indeed, my personal account displayed a balance of merely $842. The shared account we maintained was entirely emptied. Tears burned my eyes as I realized he had been orchestrating this for months, perhaps years. My phone chimed with another Douglas text. Incidentally, I handled those dusty old photograph collections in the library. Nobody requires that sentimental clutter anymore. The purchasers want the house vacant by next week. The photograph albums my mother's treasured memories, generations of our family history. I felt physically nauseated. The estate's security camera footage appeared on my phone, displaying Douglas and Angela loading containers into his vehicle. They were laughing, champagne glasses in hand, celebrating within our ancestral home while my mother battled for her life in surgery. Virginia, Juliana's voice returned me to the present moment. There's additional information. He's reserved 2 first-class tickets to Rio de Janeiro for tonight, and he's been recording your hospital phone conversations. He wanted to ensure your mother was too incapacitated to interfere with the transaction. The complete magnitude of his betrayal overwhelmed me. He hadn't merely been stealing our funds, he'd been waiting for my mother to be at her most defenseless. He had timed everything flawlessly, assuming I would be too distressed about my mother to notice his actions. The physician appeared in the doorway just then. Mrs. Crawford, your mother is stabilized. The surgery succeeded, but she required extensive care during recovery. I grasped my grandmother's journal tighter, sensing the concealed documents inside that would become Douglas's downfall. He believed he had orchestrated everything perfectly, but he had no awareness of what was approaching. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't merely about victory, it's about allowing your adversary to lose everything through their own methods. Mr. Reynolds, this is Virginia Crawford. I understand you're the purchaser Douglas arranged for our estate. My voice remained steady, concealing the fury boiling inside. Yes, Mrs. Crawford. Your husband mentioned you'd be calling to complete the arrangements. I must say, $3.2 million is quite a bargain for such a magnificent property. He sounded satisfied with himself. And you've already transferred the payment? I inquired, observing my mother's peaceful sleeping expression. Yes, just this morning. Your husband was quite adamant about immediate payment, mentioned something about a Brazilian investment opportunity. That couldn't wait. I smiled grimly. Mr. Reynolds, I suggest you contact your bank immediately and halt that transfer. You see, Douglas doesn't actually possess the authorization to sell the estate. There was an extended pause. I'm sorry, what? The property exists within an irrevocable trust. Any transaction without proper documentation from the trust administrator constitutes fraud. I believe that would make you an unwitting participant. In real estate deception, while Mr. Reynolds processed this information, my phone buzzed with another Douglas text. Just delivered the final paperwork with the buyers. You should be thankful I secured us an excellent deal. Heading to the airport. Now with my real future, I redirected my attention to Mr. Reynolds, who was now stammering about legal documentation. Examine your purchase agreement carefully, I advised. I'm certain you'll discover some discrepancies. My husband can be inventive with paperwork when it serves his purposes. Just then, Juliana entered the hospital room, nodding to confirm that everything was positioned. She handed me a folder containing copies of the trust documents and recent bank statements showing Douglas's systematic theft. Mrs. Crawford, Mr. Reynolds' voice had adopted a panic tone. I've just reviewed the documentation. These signatures, they don't match the county records. No, they wouldn't, I replied calmly. I suggest you contact your attorney immediately. The FBI is already involved, and they'll want to speak with you about your role in this transaction. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a call from Agent Sarah Martinez, who had been constructing a case against Douglas for the past month. We're positioned at the airport, she reported. Your husband just checked in for his flight to Rio with a woman matching Angela's description. Perfect timing, I said, watching Juliana set up her laptop to monitor the security feeds. He has no idea the trust administrator is waiting at the gate. The next text from Douglas made me shake my head. Boarding soon? You'll never locate. US where we're going. Enjoy your empty existence in that worthless old house. I didn't bother responding. Instead, I opened my grandmother's diary and retrieved the document that would seal Douglas's fake original trust agreement with its crystal clear provisions about property transfer and fraud prevention. Juliana looked up from her laptop with a satisfied smile. Airport security just flagged their passports. Want to observe the show? Juliana's laptop screen displayed the airport security feed as Douglas and Angela approached the international terminal. They appeared confident, almost arrogant, pulling their expensive matching luggage. I noticed Angela wearing my mother's sapphire necklace of family heirloom passed down for generations. Double quotes Mrs. Crawford. Agent Martinez's voice crackled through my phone. We've discovered something disturbing. Your husband didn't just forge documents for the estate sale. He's been operating a complex scheme involving multiple properties and elderly victims. My hand gripped the hospital bed rail as she continued. We've identified at least 6 other cases where he targeted wealthy families during medical emergencies. He would forge power of attorney documents while they were hospitalized. The revelation struck me like a physical blow. All those late nights at the office, the mysterious client meetings, he'd been perfecting his scheme for years. I thought of the other families, other homes, other lives he'd tried to destroy. There's more, Juliana interjected, her eyes fixed on her screen. I've traced the money trail. Angela isn't just his mistress, she's been his accomplice from the beginning. She works for a shell company that's been laundering money from these property scams. On the security feed, I watched as Douglas approached the gate. He was wearing the custom-made suit I'd given him for our anniversary last year, probably the last gift I'd ever give him. Angela clung to his arm, giggling at something he'd said. Then everything happened at once. 2 FBI agents in suits approached from one direction. The trust administrator, Mr. Harrison, emerged from the other side, flanked by airport security. Douglas's face transformed from confusion to shock to rage in seconds. You don't understand. His voice came clearly through Juliana's audio feed. My wife gave me permission to sell the property. I have documentation. Forged documentation, Mr. Harrison interrupted. The Crawford estate has been in an irrevocable trust for over 20 years. Even if your wife wanted to, she couldn't authorize its sale. I watched Douglas's face pale as he realized his mistake. But instead of surrendering, he shoved Angela toward the agents and bolted. He made it about 10 steps before security tackled him, sending my mother's antique bracelet, which I hadn't even realized was missing, skittering across the airport floor. Virginia, Juliana's voice was urgent. Douglas just tried to transfer another $500,000 from your mother's account. If I hadn't frozen it yesterday, double quotes. My phone buzzed with one final text from Douglas. You think you're so clever. Check your mother's medical insurance. Oops, my blood ran cold. I immediately called the hospital billing department. Sure enough, Douglas had canceled my mother's insurance policy last week, claiming it was a cost-cutting measure. The surgery she'd just undergone would cost tens of thousands of dollars. He'd planned it all, get my mother hospitalized without insurance, drain our accounts, sell the estate, and disappear with the money while I drowned in medical debt. What he hadn't counted on was that I'd already transferred my mother to my own insurance policy 3 months ago when Juliana first discovered his plans. Sometimes the best trap is the one your enemy never sees coming. As I watched Douglas being handcuffed on Juliana's laptop screen, Agent Martinez rushed into my mother's hospital room. Her face was grave. Mrs. Crawford, we need to move quickly. Your husband's phone records show he contacted a demolition company yesterday. They're scheduled to start work on the estate tomorrow morning. Something about the beer wanting to clear the land immediately. My heart stopped. The estate didn't just hold our family memories, it contained evidence of Douglas's other crimes. I discovered a hidden safe in his study last week but hadn't been able to crack it yet. He's trying to destroy the evidence, Juliana said, already dialing her phone. And I bet that safe in his study contains documents from his other victims. There's another problem, Agent Martinez added. Angela's disappeared. She slipped away during the confusion of Douglas's arrest, and she has access to all your banking information. I pulled out my grandmother's diary and removed a small key hidden in its spine. My grandmother didn't just set up the trust, I explained. She installed a state-of-the-art security system throughout the estate. Every room is monitored, every document protected. Angela won't be able to access anything without triggering silent alarms. Right then, Juliana's laptop pinged with an alert. The estate security cameras showed Angela climbing through a window into Douglas's study. She was heading straight for the safe. Should we send officers? Agent Martinez asked, already reaching for her radio. Wait, I said, watching Angela input the safe's combination. My grandmother also installed a failsafe. Any unauthorized access to the safe ... on screen. Angela swung open the safe door triumphantly. Immediately, both the safe and study door locked automatically, trapping her inside. A fine mist sprayed from hidden vents, harmless, but containing an invisible UV dye that would mark anyone in the room for weeks. The police can take their time. I smiled. She's not going anywhere. And now she's marked with evidence of attempted theft. My phone rang. It was Mr. Reynolds, the would-be bearer, Mrs. Crawford. I've just learned that Douglas planned to bulldoze the estate and build luxury condos. He showed me forged environmental surveys claiming the historic house was structurally unsound. I've already contacted my bank to stop all payments. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Though you should know the demolition company he hired, it's another shell corporation. They would have taken your money and disappeared. Agent Martinez ended a call and turned to me. The FBI just found Douglas's laptop. He has detailed files on wealthy families with elderly or ill relatives across 3 states. He was planning to expand his scheme significantly. I looked at my mother, still sleeping peacefully, then back at the security feed showing Angela pounding furiously on the study door. My grandmother always said that greed eventually destroys itself. I don't think Douglas ever understood that the real value of our estate wasn't in its price tag, it was in the protections she built into every brick. Juliana's laptop pinged again. Virginia, she said urgently, you need to see this. Douglas had one more plan in motion, and it's already started. Juliana turned her laptop to show me what looked like transfer confirmations. Douglas set up automatic withdrawals from your mother's retirement accounts, scheduled to trigger at midnight. He's trying to empty everything before the banks freeze his assets. I smiled, remembering the day 3 months ago when I'd visited my grandmother's old friend at the trust company. Let him try, I said, pulling up my own phone's banking app. I've already moved everything into new accounts protected by the trust. He's about to transfer money from empty accounts and implicate himself in even more fraud attempts. On the security feed, we watched as police officers entered the study where Angela was trapped. She was still frantically trying to destroy documents from the safe, but her hands were now glowing bright purple under the UV lights. Mrs. Crawford, Agent Martinez said, reviewing the documents we'd found, this evidence isn't just about your estate. Douglas's files detail a scheme targeting dozens of families. We're looking at multiple counts of fraud, theft, and conspiracy. My mother stirred in her hospital bed, her eyes fluttering open. I squeezed her hand gently. Everything's okay. Mom, the estate is safe. Grandmother's plan worked perfectly. Of course it did, she whispered with a faint smile. Your grandmother always said the best trap is the one they walk into themselves. Agent Martinez's phone buzzed. They found Douglas's go bag in his car trunk. It contained passports, currency, and your grandmother's original will, he thought. He had the only copy. I opened my grandmother's diary one last time and removed the real original will, safely preserved all these years. No, I said, he only had what we wanted him to find. 2 weeks later, I sat in the courthouse watching Douglas and Angela at their arraignment. Gone were their designer clothes and arrogant smiles, replaced by prison jumpsuits and defeated expressions. The prosecutor read out 37 charges of fraud, conspiracy, and attempted theft. Your Honor, Douglas's lawyer began, my client was simply trying to protect his wife's assets. That's not what the evidence shows, the prosecutor interrupted, holding up a thick folder. We have documented proof of Mr. Crawford targeting multiple families during medical emergencies, attempting to steal their properties through elaborate fraud schemes. The UV-marked documents recovered from his safe detail every crime, I thought. About the other victims' 12 families who had almost lost everything to Douglas's schemes. Thanks to the evidence we gathered, they would all get justice. The judge set bail at $5 million each, remanding both Douglas and Angela to custody when they couldn't pay. As they were led away, Douglas turned to glare at me. I simply smiled and patted my grandmother's diary. He never understood that real wealth isn't about money, it's about family, legacy, and protecting what matters most. Back at the estate, my mother was recovering well in her old room, surrounded by the family photos and heirlooms we'd protected. The garden she loved was blooming again, and the house felt more alive than ever. I sat in my grandmother's favorite chair in the library, feeling her wisdom surround me. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in the fight, it's in preserving what truly matters while letting greed destroy itself.